Most women spend way too much time trying to figure out how to stay on a man's mind. They replay every text. They study every reply. They wonder if they said too much or not enough. But the truth is far simpler than people think. Sometimes it only takes 3 small words used in the right moment with the right feeling to make him think about you again and again. And no, I'm not talking about the obvious words people throw around when they want to sound deep. I'm talking about words that get under the surface, words that slide past logic and touch emotion, words that leave a mark. Because men do not keep thinking about perfection. They keep thinking about feeling. They remember the woman who made them feel something different, something alive, something warm, something unexpected. That is what stays. That is what repeats in the mind long after the chat is over and the phone is back in his pocket. And in a second, I'm going to give you those exact 3 words. But stay with me, because if you use them the wrong way, they fall flat. If you use them the right way, they can change the whole energy between you. This is not about chasing him. It is not about sending more messages. It is not about trying to become some perfect dream woman. It is not about playing cheap games either. This is about knowing how attraction actually works underneath the surface, where emotions are stronger than logic, and where one small moment can echo for days. So if you want to know how to create that kind of impact without forcing anything, keep listening, because this is where it starts to get interesting. Here is the first truth most people never say out loud. Attraction does not begin in the part of the mind that makes neat little lists. It does not start with, she is nice, she is smart, she looks good, so I must be interested. If love worked like that, everyone would find their person in 5 minutes and dating would already be solved. But that is not how people work. The strongest connections are not built by logic first. They are built by emotion first. We feel before we explain. We react before we understand. That is why some people stay with us even when we barely know why. A smile feels different. A simple sentence hits deeper than it should. A playful look feels like it carries a whole story inside it. Those moments do not feel powerful because they are logical. They feel powerful because they wake something up. And most women miss this point completely. They think the way to become unforgettable is to do more. More checking in, more effort, more explaining, more proving. But attraction does not grow because you are trying harder. In fact, the harder you push, the more it starts to feel heavy. Real attraction grows from emotional impact. It grows from the mark you leave behind when your words do more than fill silence. The right words do not simply reach his ears, they create a picture. They plant a scene. They leave behind feeling. And once feeling is there, your presence is no longer easy to forget. You stop being just another conversation in a long line of conversations. You become the one that replays later, usually when he is not expecting it, and that is exactly why it matters. Think about how most conversations begin. Hey, how are you? How was your day? Hope you're doing well. It sounds polite, it sounds kind, it sounds safe. And that is exactly the problem. Safe is usually invisible. Those lines do not spark curiosity. They do not create a picture. They do not wake up emotion. They pass through the mind like air. Nothing grabs, nothing sticks. If he has seen the same message 10 times that week, your words slide into the same pile and disappear. And then what happens? Because you can feel that nothing is landing, you start doing more. You send longer texts, more emojis, more compliments, more questions. You try to keep the energy alive by filling every gap. But all that often does is remove the mystery. It kills the tension. that attraction
Before
needs.
you allow
Because the
uncertainty
mind
to
does not
convince you
hold
that
on to
everything is
every
over,
word someone
hear this
says.
clearly.
It holds on to moments
There is still something
that feel
unfolding.
different. It remembers the
There is
laugh,
still
the
movement
spark,
happening beyond
the
what your
unexpected
eyes can
line,
see.
the strange warmth it felt.
I know you
That
have been
is what
quiet.
memory keeps.
I know you have
Think
been
about
trying
how
to accept
one
the
smell
situation.
can bring back
You may
a
have been telling
person
yourself
from years
that
ago.
you have already
Words
moved
can do the
forward,
same thing
that you have made
when they
peace
carry
with the distance,
emotional charge.
and
The
that you should
brain is
stop
built to
looking back.
notice what breaks the pattern.
But somewhere
anything
inside,
fresh,
there is still a
anything
feeling that
surprising,
remains.
anything that
A thought
interrupts
that
the
appears when
normal
you least
rhythm of the
expect it.
day gets
A memory
attention.
that
And if that
returns
fresh
without warning.
moment also carries
A question
feeling,
that rises again,
now
even
it
after you
becomes
believed you had.
powerful. Now it gets stored. That is the gap between being pleasant and being memorable. Pleasant is fine. Memorable changes the game. So the goal is not to talk more. The goal is to say something that makes him pause, feel, imagine, or smile in a way he did not expect. This is the trap many women walk into without seeing it. They start sounding like everyone else. Same tone, same questions, same soft little check-ins, same careful rhythm. And once that happens, they blend into the background. It is not always that he dislikes them. It is often worse than that. He simply has no emotional reason to hold on. Nothing about the exchange feels charged enough to replay later. So she tries harder. She gives more energy than the moment needs. She over-explains simple things. She compliments too much. She keeps the conversation going when it should have been left alone for a bit. And the result is the opposite of what she wants. The interaction starts to feel heavy instead of magnetic, pressure instead of pull, need instead of spark. Attraction likes space. It likes that small gap between interest and certainty. It likes the moment where he wonders a little, where he leans in a little, where he starts to imagine more than what has already been said. If you hand him everything too fast, the mind relaxes instead of reaching. There is no mystery left to explore, no tension left to enjoy. And here is the hard truth. People often value what they feel they have to move toward, not what gets dropped in their lap with no effort at all. That does not mean play games. It means understand energy. Understand that intrigue is stronger than overload. A few strong sparks beat a flood of weak attention every time. If every other woman is pouring buckets of water into his inbox, you want to be the one who lights a match. A match is small, but it changes the whole atmosphere. It makes him notice. It creates heat. It creates possibility. And in attraction, possibility is everything. Stay with me, because now we get to the part that actually changes things. The 3 words are simple. So simple that some people laugh when they first hear them. The words are you and me. That's it. You and me. And before you roll your eyes, listen carefully, because the power is not in how fancy the phrase sounds. The power is in what it quietly suggests. You and me does not just name 2 people. It places 2 people in the same frame. It links you in his mind. It creates a tiny scene where the 2 of you already belong in the same picture. That is why it works. Most people, when they want to suggest something, ask in a way that puts all the power in the other person's hands. Do you want to grab dinner sometime? Would you maybe like to hang out? If you're free, maybe we could do something. There is nothing wrong with those lines, but they can feel hesitant. They can feel like you are waiting for approval. You and me changes the energy. You and me should grab dinner. You and me would be trouble at that place. You and me need to hear that band live. Notice the difference. It is not begging. It is not pushing. It is simply framing a shared possibility with confidence. It creates a moment instead of requesting one. And that matters, because the mind responds strongly to scenes it can imagine. The moment he hears you and me, he does not just process information. He starts to picture the 2 of you laughing, walking in, sitting side by side, sharing something. That mental image becomes the hook. That is the part he remembers. Not the sentence alone, but the tiny movie it started playing in his head. And this is why those words hit deeper than they seem. They quietly show three qualities that most men find magnetic without even realizing it. The first is confidence. When you say you and me, you are not nervously waiting for him to decide if you are worthy of time. You are speaking like connection is natural, like the idea of the two of you together is easy, fun, and possible. That kind of energy feels attractive because it suggests self-respect. It says you are not desperate for approval. The second quality is clarity. These words are clean, direct, not a long winding sentence full of soft exits and nervous maybe statements. In a world full of vague messages and mixed signals, clarity is refreshing. It cuts through noise. It feels grounded. The third quality is initiative. Most people wait. They hope the other person will make the move. They sit back and read signs forever. But when you use you and me at the right moment, you gently lead the energy forward. Not aggressively, not heavily, just enough to create movement. And that shift is powerful because taking initiative does not make you look desperate when the tone is right. It makes you look engaged, alive, present. It says you are not afraid of chemistry, but timing matters. Tone matters. If you use these words too hard or too early, they lose their magic. If you say them with playfulness, they feel light and exciting. If you say them with pressure, they can feel intense in a way that closes him down. So the secret is not only the phrase. The secret is how naturally you slip it into a moment that already has a little spark. Let me show you the difference. Imagine you are talking about board games and both of you are joking about how competitive you get. You smile and say, you and me would be dangerous on the same team. That works. It is playful. It paints a picture. It creates a tiny shared world without asking too much. Or maybe you are trading songs and you find out you both love the same artist. You grin and say, you and me need to hear them live one day. Again, easy, light, suggestive. It opens a door. Now compare that to this. You just met him 5 minutes ago, and in a serious voice, you say, you and me should be together. That does not create spark. That creates pressure. Or imagine you barely know him and you say, you and me need a weekend away. Too much, too fast. The problem is not the words themselves. The problem is the emotional weight you attach to them. The right version feels like a spark tossed into the air. The wrong version feels like a contract shoved onto the table. One invites him to imagine. The other demands that he commit to a fantasy before he is ready. So when you use this phrase, keep it light. Keep it playful. Let it feel like you are letting him in on a fun possibility, not trying to lock him into a future he never asked for. That is why suggestion works better than force. People move toward what feels exciting and easy. They pull away from what feels loaded and heavy. So do not turn these words into a speech. Drop them into the moment like they belong there. That is when they land. That is when they echo later. And yes, there is more, because if you want this to really work, there are rules. First rule, choose the right moment. This matters more than people think. You and me only works when there is already some energy in the interaction. Not fireworks, not huge chemistry, just a little spark, a little rhythm, a little opening. Maybe you are both laughing. Maybe you just found a shared interest. Maybe he said something that gives you an easy place to build from. That is your window. If you use the phrase when the conversation is flat, cold, or forced, it will feel random. Sparks need something dry to catch on. Second rule, keep the tone relaxed. Smile if you are in person. Use warmth if you are texting. The line should feel like a playful thought that slipped out, not a rehearsed move. Third rule, connect it to something real. The phrase becomes stronger when it is attached to an image or an activity. You and me would destroy everyone at trivia night. You and me need to try that coffee place. You and me would probably get kicked out of that museum for laughing too much. See what happens there? You are not just saying the phrase, you are giving it shape. You are giving the mind something to see. Fourth rule, do not overuse it. If every third sentence becomes you and me, it starts to feel like a trick. The power is in the surprise. It should appear just enough to leave a mark, not so often that it loses energy. And fifth rule, let the moment breathe after you say it. This is where many women ruin it. They drop a good line, then panic and keep talking. They explain it. They soften it. They add extra words because silence makes them nervous. Do not do that. Say it, let it sit. Let him feel it. Let his mind do its job. Sometimes the strongest thing you can do after a line lands is nothing at all. Because here is what most people forget. Attraction is not built by constant effort. It is built by moments. The right moment, the right line, the right feeling. A man does not sit around replaying a woman because she sent him 10 polite messages in a row. He replays the one who made him feel something he did not expect. The one who broke the pattern of his day. The one who created a scene in his head he kept returning to. This is why being memorable has very little to do with being louder, prettier, or more available than everyone else. It has to do with emotional contrast. 1. If the rest of his day is flat, the woman who brings light, playful energy stands out. If everyone else is asking safe, boring questions, the woman who creates imagery stands out. If everyone else is trying too hard, the woman who feels calm and natural stands out. And that is a big shift. Because once you understand this, you stop trying to win attention by volume. You stop thinking the answer is more words, more proof, more effort, more chasing. You start thinking in terms of impact. You start asking a better question. Not how do I keep the conversation going forever, but how do I create one moment he will remember when the conversation is over? That is the game. That is where real pull lives. And when you get that, you become much harder to forget, not because you are forcing yourself into his day, but because something about your energy slips into his memory and stays there. That is a very different kind of power. Quiet, simple, effective, and honestly, far more attractive than trying to impress someone with constant noise. Now let's go even deeper, because the phrase only works when your whole energy supports it. If your words say confidence, but your behavior screams fear, the line loses force. So what does the right energy look like? It looks like ease. It looks like a woman who is enjoying the moment, not trying to squeeze certainty out of it. It looks like someone who is present enough to play, but detached enough not to panic over every response. That is the sweet spot. Because when you use you and me from that place, it feels natural. It feels like you are sharing a spark, not fishing for reassurance. And men feel that difference fast. They may not explain it in those exact words, but they feel it. They feel when a woman is inviting versus chasing. They feel when a line comes from joy versus anxiety. They feel when there is room to move toward her instead of pressure to perform on command. So do not rush after the phrase. If he smiles, good. If he flirts back, good. If he takes a second, also fine. Do not grab the moment and shake it to death. Let it live. Let him step toward it if he wants to. The whole point is to create movement in his mind, not force a result in 5 seconds. This is where patience becomes attractive. This is where calm becomes magnetic. Anyone can send a message. Not everyone knows how to create tension without pressure. Not everyone knows how to make a moment feel light and meaningful at the same time. But when you do, you become different. And different is powerful. Especially today when so much communication feels rushed, flat, and painfully predictable. So yes, 3 words matter, but the woman behind the words matters too. And if you want him thinking about you, become the kind of presence that lets those 3 words land like a spark in a dark room. There is another reason this works, and it is simple. People move toward what already feels emotionally real. If you can make a shared moment feel real in his mind before it happens in real life, you have already changed the energy between you. That is what you and me does. It gives shape to possibility. It makes connection feel less like a question and more like a scene waiting to happen. And that small shift matters more than you think. A lot of attraction begins because someone starts imagining, not committing, not promising, just imagining. And once imagination begins, feelings often follow. That is why playful suggestion can be stronger than a direct confession too early. Confession asks for an answer. Suggestion creates curiosity. Confession can bring pressure. Suggestion brings movement. One says, decide right now. The other says, picture this for a second. Which do you think gives the mind more room to enjoy? Exactly. So if you want to stand out, stop thinking only in terms of information. Start thinking in terms of emotional pictures. Do your words create an image? Do they open a little world? Do they feel alive? Because when they do, the conversation changes from text on a screen into something he can almost step inside. And that is where memory begins to hold on. This is also why simple English works best here. You do not need clever lines. You do not need complicated flirting. You do not need to sound mysterious in a dramatic way. Simple is powerful when it carries feeling. Simple is powerful when it creates imagery. Simple is powerful when it feels true. So if you have been trying too hard, let this be your reminder. Pull back, breathe, say less, but make it matter more. That change alone can make you feel completely different in his eyes, and even more importantly, in his mind. So the next time you are talking to a man you like, do not rush to fill every silence. Do not send 5 extra messages because he took time to reply. Do not try to prove your value by how available you are. Pay attention to the moment instead. Look for the opening, the shared joke, the common interest, the little spark, then use it. You and me would have too much fun there. You and me should try that. You and me would be a problem in that situation. Keep it light, keep it warm, keep it real. Then let the moment breathe. That is how you create impact. That is how you stop being just another name in a long list of names. And let's be honest, that is what most women really want. Not just attention, not random replies, not shallow interest. They want to be felt. They want to matter. They want to become unforgettable without having to chase, perform, or beg. And the beautiful part is, you do not need a huge performance to do that. You need a better understanding of how emotion works. You need better timing, better simplicity, better energy. That is all. The woman who knows how to create a moment has more power than the woman who tries to control the whole story. Remember that. A moment can do more than 100 safe messages. A spark can do more than a speech. And 3 simple words, when they come with confidence, clarity, and the right feeling, can stay in his mind much longer than you think. If you've made it this far, good, Because now you know the secret is not chasing, it is resonance. It is not pressure, it is picture. It is not doing more, it is leaving more behind. And once you learn that, everything starts to change.